Hey everyone, it's Jim Ware, and it is time for a YouTube Pagan Challenge again. Um, this week's challenge is about spirit animals, totem animals, and power animals. Animal spirit guides, basically. And if we have them. And I think we pretty much all do. I have several. Um, I'm not exclusive to just one animal. And, and, anywho, I work with my animal guides, or at least I think of them in a sense of a totem pole, like in a ton of Native American traditions. So I have several, and I really want to create a totem pole actually of my spirit animals, but I haven't figured out how I want to do it yet. Um, but once I do, I'm sure I'll make a video about me crafting it, which will be really interesting, because I'm not really super crafty. So we'll see what happens. Um, however, yes, I have spirit guides, and my main one that I really affiliate with and call on in ritual a lot to work with is the fox. This is just a stuffed fox that I have that I love. It's so cute. I have a one just like this too. That's like this big. It's a little baby one that I sit on top of it, and its name is Kiki. I did not name it Kiki. That was the name of it when I bought it from this like company. They're called Stackins, Stackable Friends. That's why they're kind of flat. But anywho, I digress. Foxes. I love foxes. I made a couple of notes, by the way, about this, so I'm probably going to be looking down, referring to my notes a few times. But let's see. What did I say about foxes? Um, I think with a lot of spirit guides, be they animal, plant, or god, goddess, whatever, a lot of times we feel like they chose us, like we didn't choose them, we were pulled to them. But I actually feel like I chose the fox, um, and I think I continue to choose the fox and keep it around. Um, why though? I mean, there's the aesthetics of the fox. I think I picked the fox. Well, first let me say I picked the fox because, or when I was a teenager. I was like a junior in high school, and I just started getting really drawn to foxes. I started working a lot at that time with Shiva and with like Hinduism, and for some reason, I kind of juxtaposed it with like kitsune stuff, like from Japan, and I just started drawing pictures constantly of like these Bombay-looking sceneries with foxes in them. I just became obsessed with foxes, and anyway, I think the first reason I chose them is because of the aesthetic. They're cute. They're orange, and I really like the color orange. Um, and they blur the lines between cats and dogs. Like foxes have retractable claws, like a cat, and they also have elliptical eyes, like a cat. And they act cat-like, but their appearance is very dog-like, and they are technically canines. So I like the fact that they blur the line between things, because I feel like I do that. And they also have like a dark quality to them, just inherently. I feel like they just have this darkness to them. Um, and I like that. I think we're all drawn to darkness. But I don't know. I like to think that I am particularly drawn to darkness and to dark things. I just like spooky things. I like grim things. Um, I like that they're tricksters too, and that does tie into their dark quality. That's usually seen as kind of like dark in traditional folklore. I like that they're tricksters because I'm a pretty funny person. I like to think. I'm usually always laughing or like giggling at things and making jokes and being really childish, um, and occasionally playing actual tricks on people. But I very much identify with the trickster quality, so I like that about the fox. And yeah, they fight stereotypes and they blur lines. And like I said, I feel like I do that too in a lot of things, in a lot of areas. I don't think I can be put into just one box on something, which is almost everybody. None of us really can. But there are some people I think that live their lives as like caricatures consciously. They're like, this is the person that I am and who I'm going to be, and I have to fit this mold. And so they make themselves become these one-dimensional beings, and I just can't do that. And the fox doesn't do that, so I like that. Also, this is kind of random, but I like the fact that foxes are so intelligent. Like when they're being chased by a predator, um, so like fox hunting and stuff like that. They will, if they know that something's on their trail, they will back up over their tracks back and forth, and then hop off and start a new trail because to confuse whatever's following them, which I think is awesome. They also hoard herbs in their dens. Also, I love that they make cozy little dens because I'm an introvert, so like the home is very important to me, and I want it to be like crowded and cozy with stuff. Um, but yes, they hoard herbs, and I think like scientifically we haven't figured out why yet. But yeah, they will hoard certain types of plants and just keep them and store them in their den, which I think is super awesome. Um, so yes, I love foxes. I feel a great connection to foxes. They're definitely my big old power animal. I love them. But I have several other animals that I also work with consistently, like I think most of us do. We don't work with usually just one god or one goddess. We work with a multitude of them. And while there may be one that we just focus on, like case in point here, I mostly focus on working with the fox as an animal guide, and I usually only focus on working with like Morgan and Vivian as gods. You know, we do work with others. Some very little, some come and go, and some we never see again. But some stay around, you just see them occasionally. You know, I think it's like people and like friends, you know, you have that one or two friends that you're really close with and you communicate with a lot. But then for the most part, I think we have friends that just come and go, and you know, like life is very fluid and water like, you know what I mean? And I think that extends to our spiritual lives. But since I was a little bitty boy, since I can remember, like since my existence and consciousness came into being, I've loved rodents. I love rats, mice, chinchillas, gerbils, hamsters, particularly guinea pigs. They're my favorite rodent. Squirrels. I mean, seriously, everything. Rabbits. I love rodents, and I have since, like I said, like since I can remember. And I think again, like with going with like aesthetic, I think it's because we have the same teeth. Like I have very big buck teeth, and something that I was teased about a lot as a child because of that. Because of that, it's funny. Um, but because of those, because all these are still baby teeth, and these had came in first, so my teeth were really huge, and so I just felt a kindredness to rodents because they also had those teeth. I had pretty much every rodent you could think of. I had it as a pet as a child, particularly guinea pigs. I had probably close to 20 overall over a span of years. But I love guinea pigs and I love rodents. And I think I was drawn to them because, again, I felt like we looked the same. Um, but because they were also, rodents are so passive and gentle, and they always seem so peaceful. I have this, like, aura of serenity about them. And I felt like that as a kid. You know, I was so passive as a kid and so, like, gentle and innocent. I stayed innocent for a really long time. I was just a really gentle, spineless child. And I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I was just so gentle, though, that I got hurt a lot. My feelings got hurt a lot. A lot. I cried a lot as a child. But I was just so gentle and calm and warm, you know. That's how I remember childhood. And I just remember always being into things that weren't loud and aggressive. I was very much into like quiet, passive things and people and animals and stuff. So that's why I felt a kindredness with rodents. So I don't particularly work with them spiritually, but I just always have this love for them. I just love them. So I do consider them a part of my totem pole because that was the first animals that I ever loved and ever felt love from, back from, with my pets. Um, and then there is the fish. Actually, also goes back to my childhood. Now, while I loved rodents because they were so much like me, I was obsessed with when I say fish, it's like a blanket term because I really mean like orcas, whales, every type of fish, saltwater and freshwater, pretty much anything that lives in the water. Um, I was just obsessed with aquatic life as a child. Like Free Willy was my favorite movie for forever. Um, I used to put salt in my bathwaters and pretend I was a merman. Um, I love water, and that is my birth signs element. But I love water, and I love things that live in the water because they're so different from what's on land. Um, the realm of water, like underwater, that ecosystem, it seems almost like a completely different planet to me sometimes because it's just there's this whole self-sustaining ecosystem aside from what's above it on land. It's awesome. It is like a whole nother world, and I just love water, and I love the creatures in the water. They're so like elegant and again like serene and peaceful, and there's like ferociousness in the oceans and rivers. There's also just such like calm, gentle animals too. I love it. They're just so exotic, and I think as a kid I was really drawn to them, and still am because to me they represent freedom. Because they just roam the entire planet, almost. I mean, seriously, like over 75% of the planet. So it's insane. Their domain is giant, and they can swim and be free and go anywhere and everywhere they freaking want. And I felt very smothered as a child, and I still do in life. I've just always felt smothered. And fish are the complete opposite. They're just so free. You can't smother them. I just love it. I love fish. I love the ocean. I love the rivers, lakes, and streams. I love the things that swim in them. I wish I was them. um, so I really love fish, and I work with fish. Whenever I want to kind of feel like I'm getting back to myself, I work with fish because I feel like that is an integral part of just the DNA of Jim. But bears came to me. This was one that kind of just passed through my life, but every time I think back on it, I'm like, oh, that was nice, you know. But around 2010, I worked with Bear Energy, and it just came to me. Bear just showed up to me, and was so sweet and playful and motherly to me. This was around the time that I really started to deepen my connection with Morgan and Vivian, and those are very much, you know, motherly, familial goddesses to me, because you know I've spoken a lot about having to mother myself growing up, because I had a very strained relationship with my own actual mother, so I really sought that out in spirituality, subconsciously at first, um, and I think the bear was just the animal mother for me, where the human or like goddess mothers for me were Morgan and Vivian. My animal mother is very much the bear, and it's just I connected with it over the course of a year or two, maybe 2 years, and it just taught me to be very, very warm-hearted and kind and giving. So I'll always love the bear for that. But again, it hasn't stuck around. That was just its teachings that it gave to me, you know, and then it passed on to something else, or to someone else. Um, there's raccoons. Um, I use raccoons to kind of symbolize my darkness, to symbolize my lower self, which I've talked about before. Um, I named my higher self and lower self and gave them identities and names separate from myself, and like whole looks, and drew pictures of them and everything. And so they even have their own totem animals. And my lower self, I call him Evan. And Evan, his totem animal, but also kind of what he is a raccoon. And I just see raccoons as being mischievous because they're thieves, like naturally as animals. Um, and they, you know, have that mask like they're thieves, you know, like they're bandits. And I usually say mapaches, which is Spanish for raccoon. So if I say mapache, I'm talking about a raccoon. But I love raccoons, and I just think they're so cute, and I really do connect them to my lower self, and because they do have this little darkness about them, and this mischievousness, this trickster quality. Um, So I identify them with darkness. Whenever I work with darkness, I usually call on the raccoon to aid me. With that said, my higher self, which I call Ezra, is very not quite angelic. Um, Not really, but is very like has like gold skin, like bronze goldish skin, and wears a suit of armor that is very bird-like and like a raptor. And I always associate with him usually the hawk, but I've also worked with like eagles and the phoenix and all sorts of raptors. Really, I guess you could just say raptor, like how I blanket the term fish, raptor, and you can just insert all kinds of birds there. But I really love hawks and eagles and such and raptors because I connect them with my higher self and with everything positive about me. Um, but it's more than that. For some reason, I always associate raptors with like Egypt. I don't know why, but I do, and with myself. And I think a lot of us feel a connection to Egypt. Like usually, a lot of us feel connections to like some of the Celtic lands, no matter our genetic ancestry. I have always felt a really big connection to Egypt. And again, I think that it's a little cliche for pagans to say that, but I don't care. Um, I've talked about before how I think there is power in cliches and in stereotypes, but I digress. Um, I have always felt connected to Egypt, and you know the they when I think of raptors, I think of Egypt, and I think of my connection to Egypt, and I think of this ancient power. This like the word arcane comes to mind. Like when I think raptors, when I think of hawks and eagles, I think of Egypt. I think of me in Egypt, and I think of like arcane magic and wisdom. I think of things that have been lost to humanity. I think of secrets, esotericness. Um, and so when I'm dealing with things like that, or when I'm ruminating over stuff like that, or when I'm learning something new, I very much feel like I'm embodying that hawk or raptor energy. Um, and then let me think. What else is there? Oh, beavers. I love beavers. You can make all the jokes you want about beavers and female genitalia. Um, but I love beavers. Again, going back to my childhood, I love fish, rodents, and beavers. For forever, I actually thought that beavers were rodents as a child until I learned stuff in school about them. Just because of the teeth, again, and because they kind of do look like rats. But I think their tails are awesome. But I love beavers, and I've worked with them a lot because I consider myself to be a very hard worker. Like when I'm at work, I'm working. I do not like, excuse me, when people are at work and they just want to goof off and play and chit chat and get by letting other people do their work and taking the credit for it, which happens to me all the time. Um, I don't like that. I believe in hard work. I believe in being smart, like making yourself smart, like teaching yourself as much as you can, always advancing yourself in all areas of your life, teaching yourself. I don't believe in just sitting in the classroom and listening to someone spout out shit that they memorized and expecting you to memorize it. That's not learning to me. So as you can see, I have major problems with the standardized education system. But I believe in learning and being smart. I believe in ingenuity and like trying to find the best and smartest ways to do things. Um, and so that's why I connect to beaver because I think that that's what a beaver is smart and ingenious and hardworking. Um, I mean, hello, dams. They build dams. Dams. Um, but also, I think they blur the lines again, like foxes do. They blur the lines between things. And I like that. And I think that they are both land animals and aquatic animals. And I love that. Um, so I love beavers. And I will always cherish a beaver and work with beaver in my life. I love beaver. Fox, beaver, and raptors are like really high up there for me in my life. I just love them. Um, and then, to round this out, of course, I've got to talk about crows and ravens and blackbirds and magpies and carrion birds. Like all these black birds, okay? Um, when I was a little boy, again, I've always had it instilled in me that animals are very special. So that's why all this goes back to my childhood a lot. My mother, one thing that she really did give to me that I really truly appreciate is a love for crows. And by extension, like I said, all these other black colored birds. But she loves crows. She still does. Um, and she used to write short stories about crows. Um, and like how when she would always tell me like, and again, we grew up very Christian and very conservative Christian, but this is just some personal belief that my mom held, um, that she always told us, me, my sister, and brother about. But she always instilled in me the idea through the stories that she would write that when your loved ones died, like your grandparents or your brothers and sisters or your cousins or anyone in your family died, their spirits would inhabit crows and watch over you. And we had a lot of crows that were always around our home. Crows are very, very common in a lot of places, but there's just a really high number in the northern Alabama area where I live. Like there really is, and like you can Google it. We have a very large number of crows, but for whatever reason, I think it's just the climate. But we had a ton that lived right around our home because we had a lot of trees, and anyway, they were always sitting on our roofs and like sitting on the windowsill looking at us. And I remember her just always holding such reverence for crows, and she instilled that in me, to really appreciate crows. And I remember she would always say that they were like angels, like they were guardian angels, and that they were your ancestors and all this. And so I never understood later on when I learned that a lot of people were scared of crows or that they were omens of death or messengers of like death. I never understood that, and that they were bad luck and things. I didn't get that because I was raised to believe the exact opposite, which now of course my views on crows have evolved. I'm like, well, they are messengers of death, but to me that's because they are your ancestors. They hold the spirits of your ancestors, and they're your guardian angels, and they're watching over you, and they're symbols of Odin and Morgan, who I work with, and I always feel comforted by them because Morgan and Odin are like my father and mother, and crows just they mean family to me. They mean family, and they mean the other side, and they are messengers. I think crows always have a message when they appear to you. They don't just appear. I never just coincidentally see a crow. And maybe that's crazy, I don't know. But every time I see a crow, it's because it's just giving me like a hug, It's like makes me think of family, makes me think of my magical family, my spirit family, and I feel warm and assured like that what I'm doing is good and where I'm going in life is okay and that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. Crows are so affirming to me. I just love crows, and I really do have to thank my birth mother for that, like my actual mother, because she's the one who instilled that in me. I don't think I would have the love for crows today if she hadn't instilled that in me yesterday, yesteryear. So I love crows. But yeah, that's it. I do have animals that I work with. Those are them. But I'm always open to working with other animals. Like I've also worked with turtle before and horse and several others, but they just come and go. These have all had like really strong impacts on me and continue to do so for the most part, minus like, like I said, like bear, probably being the main one. But those are my guides. As for this challenge, by the way, I just want to shift gears slightly for a second. It said, do you have a spirit / totem / power animal? Now, I know a lot of people are like, what's the difference between all those? Personally, I would say there is no difference for me. Those are just interchangeable terms. But at one point, I did differentiate them, and this is how I differentiated them. A totem animal was an animal that stuck around with you for your entire life. And is something that will never leave you. And it's usually an animal that you get from your family before you. Like for me, it would be a crow. That is my family's totem animal, I feel. Like we all share a connection to the crow. Everyone in my family. My blood family. That is our like crest, Like it's a crow. And then I think power animals are animals that are individual to you. But they also, like a totem animal, will never leave you for your entire life. But it's one that's personal to you. So for me, that'd be the fox. So while yes, I have the crow because I am a part of my blood family, I also have my own personal animal that will never leave me, and that's the fox. So that would be my power animal. And then I feel spirit animals are just animals that come and go and teach you lessons as you need them. So yeah, that's how I used to differentiate a lot of like the animals for myself, but now I just kind of don't care about those labels, and I'm just like, you're all animals, you're all spirits, you're all guardians, whatever. However, if I had to go back to those definitions, like those terms, those would be the definitions that I used for those terms. But that's it. I hope you found this informative and interesting. I'm really excited to actually hear about everyone's totem animals because I just have such a deep love for animals. I love animals. I really do. I cry whenever I have animals that die. I hate it. Which, I mean, we all do, but I hate seeing animals mistreated. It just immediately infuriates me. I get so enraged. So yes, I love animals. Animals are just amazing, amazing, and I'm so glad they're on this planet with us because they're just. I keep looking over at my cats. That's why I keep going, oh, but they just teach us so much by saying nothing. Animals are God. Animals are amazing. So I'll show you guys. I hope you're well wherever you are.